Good evening. Welcome to the QCIS channel. On this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. My name is Leon Jones, and what I'm going to talk about tonight is something that we use in construction. And you can also use it in accounting or any type of billing. And I'm going to talk about item numbers. Now, why are item numbers significant? Well, basically, when you have an item number, it gives you a description of the material or the account. Now, when you bill time, and you can do this when you're working as well, you have Deltec, you have AEC 360, but you have a mechanism that you use to build time. Now, when you build time, you have to be able to charge it to something. And that's where the item number comes in. Now, item numbers are very different depending on if you're working on a DOT job or if you're working with CSI specifications. No matter what, you have an item number. And an item number is very important. Without item numbers, you don't know what you're charging anything to. So let me share my screen. And first of all, what is an item number? Or some people call it a pay item. Well, a pay item means a specifically described item of work for which the bidder provides per unit or lump sum price in a bid specification as determined. Now, this one talks about New Jersey Department of Transportation. Now, every state has the same pay item system. In fact, when you deal with DOT work, everything comes down from the FHWA. They set the standards for everything because the FHWA allocates money to the states to actually maintain their highways. And that pay number is very, very important. Now, I'm going to show you some examples. Now, this is an invitation for bid. Again, this is for the New Jersey Department of Transportation. Now, of course, as we go through the bid, is a bid proposal. Now, what I'm looking for in this bid proposal is what's going to be in the bid, and I'm going to give you examples of item numbers. Now, of course, this is a pretty big invitation for bid. But nevertheless, contractors have to see what's in that contract. Well, it is not in here, so I won't use that. But I will go down and I will look at this. Let me see if it's here. Example of a pay item. This is the state of New Jersey. I'm very familiar with New Jersey because I went to school in New Jersey, so I know how New Jersey works. Okay, I'm not getting anything when it comes to pay items for the state of New Jersey, but that's okay. But I'm going to tell you this about a pay item. What's very, very unique about pay items. One thing that is unique about pay items is how are pay items made up? Well, pay items are made up of different sections of the specifications. Like most of your specifications for state DOT work and even DPW work are basically all the same. Generally, your 100 section, that's where all of your payment information is described. Then your 200 section. 200 section basically talks about your earthwork. Of course, with NDOT, they talk about temporary sediment and erosion control. Also, there's the 600 series. Now, why am I referencing all these specifications? Because if you look at the first three digits, and here's the key, if you don't know where anything is and you have a pay item, the first three digits represent a section and the specifications. Now, let me go in here and let's talk about this for a little bit. Now, of course, this is DPW in Indianapolis, and I work for DPW in Indianapolis. Now, this slide presentation I found comes from an ACEC DPW designer workshop. Now, ACEC also puts on an RPR type of workshop. But what I'm going to show you here are pay items that we use at DPW. Now, for NDOT, NDOT does have pay items, but I'm going to be the first one to tell you, I don't like the way NDOT does their pay items. They do their pay items with proposed line numbers and contract line numbers or project line numbers. I don't like that. To me, your item number should represent your specifications. In other words, under that item number, it describes what that item is. That's what I should be paying for. Now, let's get into this one when it comes to pay items and technical specifications. Now, of course, I wasn't there at the introduction, but when it comes to any type of design, you got your engineers. I'm an engineer myself, but I'm not quite licensed. However, I'm qualified to explain to you what's involved in construction. Now, the topics, and it's going to go off topic a little bit, but it's still going to deal with payments. We'll talk about NDOT pay items and specs, DPW pay items and specs, commonly used DPW pay items, new DPW pay items, quantity changes. But basically, we're going to focus a lot more on the items. And I'm going to tell you how they work. Now, what NDOT does, what PennDOT, what ODOT, what NJDOT, every DOT, they publish items. Now, some items may be taken away, some items may be added, but NDOT publishes a pay item list and maintain it. Now, here's where we're going to get the information from. When I was telling you about section, you see this item right here, 601-01115, guardrail, W-beam, 1 foot, 6 3/4 inch spacing. Now, that guardrail, W-beam, 1 foot, 6 3/4 inch spacing, that's your item description. When you have a unit cost contract, the RPR, the inspector in charge, the PS, project supervisor, PE, project engineer, when they cut an estimate for the contractor, they're going to pay for that material that's in the contract. Now, as you know, you see this 601 right here? That's the section. That means it's in 601. 601 happens to be incidental. That's the incidental part of the specifications. Now, you also have the description. I just read it for you. That's just the name of the item. Then you have the measurement. And the measurement is usually each, a square foot, a cubic foot, a square yard. You have to utilize that to get the quantities. Your unit is very important. And if you're an inspector out in the field, in order to get that linear foot, you have to measure it. Then you have a type. Now, is it special? This is what your type is. Mandatory supplemental description. It could be a modification somewhere. Let's move on. All right. Let's talk about this. Item types, you have your standard, recurring, and unique. Now, I can tell you in Pennsylvania, we had item numbers and we used the item numbers. And we had the specs, like say if I'm putting some guardrail in, and I know guardrail is in 600. Well, if we wanted decorative guardrail, we would have that same item number, but we would put a 4 in front of that item number. Now, what is the 4 for? A 4 is the modification. Let's say the item number is 600-11111, 5 ones after it. Now, if I wanted to make a modification or make it unique, in Pennsylvania, we used to put a 4, so that item number would be 4600-11111. The 4 indicates that it is unique to the job. Then we also had item numbers, 9999 item numbers. Well, that's for an item number that's created that wasn't in the contract. And when we deal with descriptions as well, going back to descriptions, it adds pertinent information to item name. Example, mod, C type, height. All right. Getting into DPW. Now, I will say this about DPW for Indianapolis. They actually use the item numbers. And what does that mean for DPW? City of Indianapolis standard general conditions for construction contract. Except as provided in this section, all applicable portions of the Indiana Department of Transportation specifications, current edition at time of bid opening, standard drawings and supplemental specifications shall apply to these contract documents to the extent not in conflict with terms thereof, with the word standard specifications, along with the reference consisting of a number or numbers and letters that are used. They shall be current at the time of bidding. You also have your RSP. RSP is your recurring special provision and your supplement. Again, I'm going to show you what item numbers mean in a minute. Now, we call them item numbers, but they're pay items. So a background. For Indianapolis and every other city, I guarantee they do the same thing. They basically take a page out of the state DOT's specifications. Well, here's background. DPW pay items. I'm talking about Indianapolis DPW. What they have in their item numbers, they have a letter, which is a I or a D. and that's a prefix for a type. Then they have a 3-digit spec. Now, what do I mean by a 3-digit spec? I just gave it to you. 621. This is an example of sediment and erosion control blanket. It's 621-02770. I remember that right off the top of my head. Now, the first 3 digits are incidental. That's 621. Now, you also have a 5-digit item, too. Now, the 5-digit item, that's very hard to really interpret right now, because I could say that 5-digit item could be a line item as well. Like when you see specifications, you might have the 200 series, then you might have a 400. What does that 400 mean? Well, that 400 means line 400. So that 4 or 5-digit number could come from the line in the specifications. And of course, I'm going to show you both of them in a minute. DPW publishes a pay item catalog in the engineer's estimate export spreadsheet from CIP. CIP is their construction management program. Now, DPW regularly services the catalog to ensure NDOT's current list is included within the current catalog, including additions, subtractions, and technical specifications. Now, also, DPW publishes a list of technical specifications to its website for use or inclusion to locally bid contracts. Now, DPW pay items. They have an A. These are what we call ad hoc pay items. They're created for one-time, singular, internal use. They're not for typical contract use. Now, the ones that are for contract use, the next one is a D. These are DPW pay items. Typically, they require inclusion of posted DPW technical specifications or designer-created technical specifications to use in locally bid DPW projects. And we have an I. Remember, if you're in Indianapolis and you see their specifications, the D is for DPW. The I is for NDOT. I'm going to show you in a minute. The I is, these are NDOT pay items. They include all available NDOT SRU items. The designer is responsible for creating technical specifications to support used NDOT items. Now, J, and I did a video on this maybe about a month ago, JOC or JOC, Job Order Contract. Now, these are not intended for typical contract use. Now, commonly used pay items. Now, here's what I'm talking about. Want to know what they look like? This is a DPW pay item. D says metered parking coordination. Well, D104, that means if you want to find out what 104 is, you go to your 100 series in your specifications. And like I said, I believe these line items, this 5-digit number, it's probably a line item too. But the D at the beginning, the D means that's a DPW item number. And generally here in Indiana, a lot of your cities follow the state specifications because, of course, the cities are located within the state. Now, this list isn't all inclusive. There are many DPW items covering anything from removals to earthwork to signals. And again, if you work for City of Indianapolis or you work for NDOT, yeah, I'm one of those workers. I work for the City of Indianapolis as well. You can email me. You know my email, or you can respond to this video that I'm doing. And I'm giving you the 411, the information on how item numbers work. Let's continue. Keep it short here. In summary, DPW's pay item catalog consists of department-created items in addition to all current NDOT available pay items. Again, here's that D I told you about, DPWD. Type pay items may have a posted technical specification. If it's not apparent if a D item is covered by a spec, discuss it with your project manager. And then you have NDOT U. Type pay items, for the most part, require the designer to create a tech spec. Now, requesting a new pay item. Now, this is what I got from DPW. Well, they have to go to the board for new items. You have to petition a new item. And sometimes it's going to happen because you have different materials out there. But again, you can find all this information on DPW's website. And like I said, the rest of this talks about designers' best practices. If you're in design, this is good for you. Again, 105.04, that's your section and your specifications. Those are your pay specifications. Again, your 100 series in your specifications is generally general. It's where all your pay items are. And here, when we talk about 105.04, it's a question and answer form, RSP, standard specifications, basis of payment. Well, again, basis of payment. See right here, 605. It's where your item number is created. Now, this could be, this 260, this is line item 260, but some of your items can be created from your line items too, or your specifications. And now, don't think that's only DOT that has specifications. Let me give you something private. Let's say if you're doing a HVAC, I think HVAC might be 03 under the CSI specifications, or you might have 03, and then you have numbers after that. Whether it is private or whether it is public, you're going to have item numbers because that item number is important. There's a description, and that item number also has a type. It also has a pay unit symbol like ton, each, linear foot, volume. That's what you're going to charge your hours to. But believe it or not, you do the same thing when you're working, especially if you're working in the field that I work in. Again, you have Deltec, AEC, 360, and there are other ones out there. Items are important because accounting, they use those items for their records as well. Those accounting would call them charge numbers. Again, as we move on, duplicate pay item descriptions, over 100 occurrences in NDOT listings. So the most commonly listed are these items right here. These are all the same, section 605. But now, what is different? I'll tell you what's different. Even though they're recurring, look at the difference. And this is where people will get messed up too. You got to look at your unit. You got to look at your type. Both the same. However, when a job is bid, material might be bid for this item or bid for this item. And also, you could have these same item numbers, but on two different projects. Now, NDOT is famous for that because NDOT started doing this bundling. And I can remember working out on the job and it really got hosed because individuals, they didn't look at the item number, they looked at the description, although it's the same. They didn't look at, okay, what is the actual project? Because you can have a project has the same name, almost the same item numbers, but very different. Design does it that way so you don't get confused. Because when you have exactly the same item numbers, particularly if you got a bundling contract, it's going to cause a lot of problems with overruns. And overruns cause a change order. That means you have to get an approval to get more monies for your contract. And of course, the contractors love change orders because change orders really increase the original contract. So you might have $1 million, and by the time that contract is over, it might be $2 million. But this is what duplicate items look like. These are your occurring items. They're similar, but really not duplicate. They're similar, but you look at the first three numbers. First three numbers, that's in your incidental specifications. And item numbers are created by designers. You need them. Very important. Again, you have duplicate pay items right here. Referencing now, they're referencing different sections. Here's 301, you're an aggregate. Here's 303, you're an aggregate. Different item right here. Same thing right here. Asphalt. Same thing with your piping. And one thing about being human, and I'm human myself, we all make mistakes. Item numbers are there to cut down on the mistakes, although we will still make them, especially if your job is very, very big and you have a lot of people on that job. Now, here's something. Understanding the difference between D&I, something that's unique to the project. And what's unique, it's not a standard drawing to rely on. That's what makes it very, very unique. Again, this is more or less in the designer, LPA and NDOT jobs. They use existing NDOT pay items to most practical extent. Again, LPA and NDOT, just comparing the local practices, and designers use a lot of pay items as well. You have your DPW, they use D items in place of an I. Now, with the LPA and NDOT again, they use existing NDOT pay items to most practicable extent. Other items will be categorized as Z for non-participating items. Use restrictive DPW text specs such as USPs, specifically restrictive provisions such as the cast iron detectable warning. Now, we'll talk about materials in a later video, but basically when we talk about detectable warning surfaces, it's this mat basically 2 by 4 feet, and you see the dome sticking up. It's called a detectable warning surface. Now, what that's for is if you have somebody blind that's getting ready to cross the street, when they're coming down a curb ramp, they can actually They can actually feel the domes on their feet that they're getting close to the street. They can put their cane, whatever device that they're using, to help guide them through traffic without being able to see. That's what those detectable warning surfaces or detectable warning surfaces or domes are for. They come in yellow. They come in, looks like a brick red. Talk about curb cut ramps later as well. Errors and emissions. This is a change order that I would say the designers have to deal with. Common change order reason, and we'll go to pay item related to being the specification, the technical provision, scope changes. And again, here are the item numbers. You see the I in front of this item number? That's an NDOT item. The D right here, it's a DPW. Again, NDOT and most of the cities follow the same specifications. I think that's good because you have consistency. Now, there are some tweaks you can make, and I can tell you one that I'm writing myself with DPW, and it's with testing, where NDOT tests their asphalt with plate samples. I'm gonna go away from that and just use a couple of cylinders. We'll still use cores, where NDOT uses tonnage for their lots and sublots. I'm going to use stations because the streets, a lot of them don't require for 5,000 tons of asphalt. Get into that. But look at these item numbers. And this is what's on the change order right here. All the item numbers. You read the specs, you can start memorizing. Remember your first three digits. Though, in fact, when it comes to the item, those are the most important, because if you don't know anything about the specs, you can learn about the specs easily. And like this I and D, if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know what it is. Again, I for NDOT, D for DPW. And then right here, 400, 300. And if you know the name, you know where to look for, where to go in the spec. Section 400, section 200. 200 is generally where your subgrade treatment. That's your that tells you light bulb comes on. That's earth. Anything that deals with cost, that's general. And anything that deals with the 700 series, that's structure. Riprap, that's incidental. 800, that's basically where you're maintaining traffic. And I believe your line painting here in Indiana is in the 800, could be in the 900 as well. But this is what an item number, and I love these item numbers. Should always use item numbers with the description. That'll help you figure everything out when you are paying for material. And of course, this is old, but bottom line, NDOT, all the cities, they're constantly working on item numbers. Now the new specifications out for NDOT. Now I work for PennDOT. Now, what does PennDOT use? And this is going to be funny. PennDOT's what they do, you won't think, well, okay, they're using 2020. No, PennDOT changes every 6 months. Like 2020, April 2020, that was their new spec. October 2020, it's changed one, and then April of 2021, changed two. October 2021, changed three, and right up to now. That's how PennDOT does it. And I believe this year, PennDOT is coming out with another specification. Theirs is Pub 408. Now, I have a few of them because I used to work for PennDOT. And again, you want to know where everything is with NDOT, everything is public information. These are the links to Indianapolis DPW and NDOT specifications and pay items. Now, I'm going to show you what some pay items are. I'm going to show you when I talk about pay items, I'm going to get into this one right here. This right here. Remember, I was telling you about NDOT? Well, this is NDOT's pay items. Everything. It's all on a spreadsheet. I'm going to have numerous items. This is what's all in their jobs. And in that pay item, you have your unit, you have the description, and you have your section. And this is what they look like. All pay items. Now, I also believe that DPW, I might have had some of them up there as well. I thought I did, but they also have pay items as well. But again, just open these back up. This is what the pay items look like. Now, unfortunately, NDOT doesn't use the pay items. They don't use them at all. I mean, I wish they did, but they don't. Pay items are very important. DPW pay items. And, like I said, basically everything is the same. And it's just a pay item. It's just a number that is described with a name so you can pay for the material and the work that was done in the contract. And basically, a lot of your contracts for road projects, even some of your private projects, they're all unit costs. So you need to know where you're paying and what you're paying. You need to know your plans and specifications, because that's where your items come from. And mistakes are always made with pay items because individuals don't take that time to study. So I would always say, study your plans and specifications. And I'm going to get more into these pay items at a later time. All I was doing tonight is to give you a little taste of what's coming in the future, because I'm going to dedicate this channel. It's an engineering channel, and I'll talk about other types of engineering, but I'm going to be a little more biased since I worked in civil engineering and construction. I'm going to do topics more in that field because I'm pretty much knowledgeable. I didn't say an expert, knowledgeable based on experience. But in the meantime, that concludes this topic on pay items. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some social content, check out my main channel, the 411 Talk Zone radio show. Every Wednesday, I come up with the scam series. Check out that video I did last night on debt collection. And every Thursday here, put out information QCIS channel. And I'm looking forward to showing you a specification that I am right. Matter of fact, let me see if I can put that up. Specification that I'm right. I don't know if you're able to, you might not be able to see it. You might not be able to see it, but I will get that up, talk about writing specifications. Because guess what? Items and specifications go hand in hand. You have special provisions and you have technical specifications. But again, that concludes this topic on item numbers. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And of course, once I finish recording videos from the 401 Talk Zone radio show, my main channel, and the QCIS channel, I also post those videos up on my Twitter page. And for the QCIS channel, since it is an educational channel, content like tonight's video is going to be posted on my LinkedIn page. And once again, thank you for listening and viewing this content on pay items on the QCIS channel. On this channel, get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful, gracious evening. And I will see you next time on the QCIS channel.